Hey guys, how's it going? Welcome to our first official Age of Darkness live stream with the developers. I guess to kick things off, we'll do some introductions. My name's Ryan, as you can see below me. I'm the art director at Playside. You would have seen me pretty active in the Discord channel. And then with me today, we've got Mario, our game designer.
Hello, hello.
So I guess to kick things off, let's just jump straight into some gameplay, shall we?
Awesome. Let's get those off for a sec. Alrighty, so this is Age of Darkness. We'll start off by just going into our survival screen. Here we can see we've got our default difficulty options. And for those that are a little bit keen, we can see we've got a custom difficulty setting up the top. In here, players can sort of customize exactly what they want their experience to look like. And for those that want a bit of an extra challenge, they can deep dive into our hardships. These will just be like an alternate game mechanic that they can add on. These do stack, so you can really make a custom, really hard experience, or just play by default without any on. We probably won't go too much into these just now. We'll leave those for a bit later on. But for
Let's
now,
jump into it.
yeah, we'll jump in.
Today we'll just be playing on normal for everyone who's asking in the chat. We don't want to give too much away just yet. And also we want to make sure we can actually survive the first couple of nights.
That's right.
I rise again and again.
So we're going to select our hero. We'll get started. Alrighty. I'll just quickly chuck on our cams and we can get going.
Ready when you are.
So first up, let's just have a look around.
Scouting
Quick
ahead.
little scout. See what we're working with.
Silently.
We got some good stone deposits.
Very well.
So I guess diving into this, Mario, let's talk a little bit about what your thought process is when you first jump into the game.
Yeah, for sure. So right now, pretty much what I'm doing is I'm just scouting out the area. I just want to know what I've got around me, if there's any sort of good choke points. I'm sort of planning ahead and trying to figure out like where should I explore first. We're looking out for density of enemies. So like I've got smaller groups and larger groups. Try not to take too much damage or aggro too much at all. But really just having a scout first, and then once I feel confident, I'll start tackling a certain direction.
Yeah, awesome. And then I guess after you're done scouting, what would you be looking to do next? What are the UI panels you're prioritizing as well?
Yeah, for sure. So I think early on we kind of, you've got your gold coming in. Your next sort of step would be, wood, so we can get our building going. In order for us to get a bigger army or better defenses or anything like that, we'll need to start jumping into those resources. So I've got quite a bit of gold stacked up now. So I think I will build a lumber yard. Cool, so now I'm just looking for a good location to build. We've got this little text prompt at the top of the resource UI showing us how bountiful the resource is. So I'll try to find a good one.
So I guess you're looking for something that doesn't say bad when you mouse over it.
That's right. That's right. So yeah, 18 is a pretty good amount. So we'll go for that now. As we go on,
before you place it, do you want to explain what those little icons are next to the number?
Yep. Yeah. Sorry, already placed. I can still jump back into that though. Just the GIF.
A flicker in the dark.
Yeah, we'll come back to that when that finishes building.
Yeah.
What is it?
So we had someone ask before as well about the timer in the top right. So maybe let's talk a little bit about that while we wait for that to build.
Sure. So in the center we've got a kind of like a time of day iconography sort of thing, showing us that it's day. This countdown will take us down to nighttime, which is where things get a little bit more hairy. And after each full day and night cycle, which we're almost halfway through one, these little ticks down the bottom will increment and they'll go up to the next level.
Cool.
So for a player not knowing what's going on, you kind of have time of day and then some ominous countdown below.
Make way.
Yeah, awesome. And then you can see what's that. What's the red one there? What's that red icon that comes up when you mouse over it?
So this is telling us that in 3 days, and that's referring to full day and night cycle, we'll have a death night.
Oh, okay, cool.
The dark encroaches.
I'm on it.
Alright, so we want to kind of pull away from the unknown at nighttime because our little friends here get slightly more dangerous at nighttime. They get more aggressive. They draw more aggro from their friends, so you can very quickly go from being in a safe position to a very dangerous position. Here I'm just placing some food, which will come in handy later for me getting more people.
Yeah.
Do you want to go over to the woodcutter's lodge and show us what those icons are again?
Yep. Yeah, so in here we've got these little people icons. This is referring to how many villagers you've got assigned at the time. This will change the efficiency of this building. So this UI here also correlates to it. If I lower that, I'm gaining more villagers, which we can see over here, to use, but the efficiency of that gatherer has gone down. So this isn't really something that you have to worry about too much early on in the game, but when it gets to the point where you're sort of min-maxing or micromanaging things, this can be a game changer.
Yeah, awesome. And then a couple of people are asking about zoom functionality. Do you want to show that off a little bit?
Yeah, okay. So at the moment we've just got the 2 levels of zoom. This being our maximum zoom, closest we can go at the moment, and that being our furthest out.
I'm on it.
And then we've also got some questions around pausing, tying into that. So I guess they've noticed the pause button in the top right. How does that work at the moment?
Yeah, so this we can just hit spacebar or click on the UI to pause. This will help you sort of just take a moment so you can figure out what's going on. You can kind of plan ahead, pause and sort of do all your building that you want, and then hit play and see it all happen. Or if you're in a really sticky situation, you can pause to help yourself micromanage your enemies and stuff.
Cool.
Silently.
Do you want to place some buildings while paused to show that off as well?
Yep. I was also going to at the same time show that resource thing that we spoke about before. So here,
perfect.
I want to place a quarry on this stone vein, but I'm unable to because I've got no available villagers. With this mechanic that we spoke about before, whilst paused as well, I can take away units from there temporarily, and now I've got one available here. And I can now place that quarry with just 1 villager assigned. Obviously the efficiency is going to be quite low, but if you're, again, trying to min-max or you're in a desperate situation, you just want to get the building going so the time to build is already started, this can come in handy.
I am here,
Awesome.
as you wish.
Next up, we'll just build some houses because we're low on villagers. We'll just build a little dwelling or 2.
Ready to face the dark.
Something else we've got in here as well, when you hover our gold UI, you can kind of see exactly where your money is coming and going. Just so, again, if you kind of want an overview of how things are working or why you're low on gold or anything like that, you can check it out here quite quickly.
Ready when you are.
Cool. I'm just going to sit here and judge your econ management for a little bit.
My APMs are definitely a lot slower than usual.
I guess trying to explain while play at the same time is a new challenge, right?
Yeah, I'm actually a little bit nervous on how I'm going to go.
Ooh.
So that one there was a bountiful placement because it has many more trees. I get maximum resources pretty much.
Moving out.
Yeah, great. How common is it to get a bountiful spawn with your tree placement, do you reckon?
Yeah, it really depends. I think we've spent a lot of time on our map gen, really sort of just being super critical on it, ensuring that every run it kind of feels fair. I think because of that, you know, you can have runs where early on you're hitting Bountiful on your first placement. Other times, you know, you won't see it until a little bit
Yes.
later, like this. But no matter what, you'll always have a fair sort of amount. You're always going to have a nice sort of average amount, and you'll just you'll get that sense of like, oh, I hit the jackpot sometimes, and other times will just be average.
Yeah, awesome.
Tracking.
Everyone's just commenting on the time of day changing.
Swiftly. I'm on it.
So now we'll just clear out a little bit, trying to just explore a little bit more, cover a bit more ground, which we'll later use to build up our base even more.
I'm ready.
We're really looking for choke points though, mainly. Like we've got a decent one here, but yeah, the more choke points we can find, the better.
We stand
Awesome. So
in
you've mentioned choke points a
Very
few
well.
times now, but why are choke points important for us?
Oh, we're gonna see soon.
Right.
So there's a few different ways where enemies can surprise the player during nights. Like I said, sometimes it gets a little bit more dangerous.
Very
Throughout
well.
the game, you can be sort of harassed by small waves of enemies, and then when this countdown reaches 0, you have to engage in a pretty full-on fight, which we've
On
dubbed the
my
Death
way.
Knight. A whole bunch of enemies, crazy amount, will come
All
through
right,
from
I'm going.
somewhere on the map, and yeah, you'll just kind of have
I'm on
to
it.
hope that you've used those choke points to defend from, and
Right.
hopefully thin that herd into a more manageable
On
size.
way.
Aye.
So that's a really good question that just came through
Scouting
around
ahead.
combat capabilities of enemies during night and day. Is there a difference?
Yeah. So
I guess we could wait till night to find out, huh?
yeah, exactly. I'll see if I can build up a small increase to this army, and yeah, we'll see if we can venture out and actually challenge the night this night.
Yeah, cool. And then also another thing that just happened that a few people caught was that the hero leveled up. So what does that mean? Do you want to
Yeah.
just pause the game and maybe mouse over that for a second so you don't lose too much time in your day?
Yeah, for sure. So over here we've got Edwin, our old hero boy. He's just leveled up and he's gained access to one of his abilities. This is his first one. It's just a passive ability. I don't know if anyone caught it before because we went through pretty quick, but in the hero select menu on the side, we actually show all of their abilities that they can get during the game. He's unlocked the first one, so with that, he gains a passive effect that boosts the emboldening gain of units nearby. So that's what these little UI things are around these units. They're all getting buffed right now. But on top of that, he'll also gain stat increases. So things like, you know, a small increase to damage, to health, and things like that.
Yeah, cool.
I am here.
It'd be great to see that in effect as well. So, with that, obviously your units get emboldened. Does it take long to
Get
embolden your
on with
units?
it.
And is the
Yep.
benefit to them similar to leveling up, would you say?
Yeah, okay. So the first part was the speed of them emboldening. If we look at just what I've got now
Got
with
something for
the way
me?
I've been playing, I've been playing extremely hardcore. This has been very sort of casual, and you can see that our units, like our soldiers, which
What?
are our lowest tier unit, they're very close to emboldened right now. That's what that yellow bar is below them. So I'd say that they're not too crazy to embolden. Our archers are
Ready
kind
when
of
you
a
are.
little bit slower. And that's just due to them being, you know, more advantageous to use. And as the units get higher value, I think their emboldening count increases as well. So the units that are really good take longer to embolden, and the ones that are kind of lower value are quite easy to embolden. That's the first part of it, and the second half is the benefits of the embolden factor. It's quite small. I think if we're talking about just flat
What
stats,
is it?
it's not going to break the game, but it is something that will come in handy. And I think the less units you've got emboldened during the harder fights, the much harder those fights are going to become. Yeah, on
Yes.
top of stat bonuses, the emboldened factor also protects units from a status debuff called Horrified.
What now?
Right.
Cool.
What do you want?
We stand in defiance. Forward. I go.
While you play,
On
I'm just
my
going to try
way.
and answer some of the questions in the chat.
Lovely.
I step towards the abyss.
Very well.
Also, it doesn't sound
Fear
like...
not the shadow.
Is everyone hearing the audio for the game come through as we play?
Flicker in the dark. Light the way. Forward.
Perfect. Just wanted to confirm that. Thanks, guys.
Oh, just to go back to that emboldened thing, just so we can see. This is a soldier that's not emboldened, and he's got, for example, like 7 damage.
Yeah.
And this one who is emboldened now, Allison, has got 8.7 damage. So it is, you know, a small amount when you're talking about one unit, but when you've got hundreds of them, it can be quite a big game changer.
I'm ready.
Cool.
I'm on it.
Upgrade complete.
I am actually worried about you surviving this coming Death Knight right now.
Yeah, we're in big trouble. That's all right. That's all good.
Ready when you are.
I stand prepared. Stand as one.
Walrick, to answer your question around elevation, there isn't any height advantage at all in terms of units being able to move to different terrain heights. It's all quite flat there, but we use terrain more as a visual blocker to break up the terrain instead. And then these buildings that Mario is placing at the moment is he's just setting up some defenses to cover up this choke point that he's found
Got
here.
something for me.
So the main big building you see building up is the barracks, so that's where we'll be able to build out our units. And then
On
the
my
2
way.
smaller buildings next to it will be towers. And with these towers, what we can do is we can fill them up with some archers, and those archers will be able to sit in there with a nice defense and poke away at enemies that come nearby.
The dark encroaches.
Moving out.
We've been asked a few times as well around what happens when the hero dies.
Our
It's a
defenses
really
are
good
under
question.
attack.
I guess we'll see if
Burns
Mario
strong.
dies with his hero first to see what finds out. But
All right, I'm
to put it
going.
simply, the hero dies, and from there you won't be able to use him. He does revive, but the cooldown on the revive is quite long, and it can be quite punishing to lose your hero,
Right.
especially when a Death Knight is coming up.
I'm on it.
Ready to face the dark.
Archer ready.
So for units health regen, basically when they are away from your base,
The keep
their
is
health,
under
just correct me if
attack.
I'm wrong here, Mario, but your health doesn't regen when you're away from your base. But once you come within a range of your buildings, their health will slowly start to regenerate.
Okay, so I think that's that does happen. But they also do it when they're out of combat after a extended period of time.
Okay, cool.
They won't regen if there's threats around, pretty much. So if they're in the darkness or enemies nearby.
So what's happened here? You've been attacked by something.
The keep
Yes,
is under
over
attack.
here, some eager nightmares have come out of the darkness and have decided to attack me where I was not ready. And yeah, so I try to prepare for something like that by sending this guy over,
Yeah.
but he may not be enough because this may not be the end of this attack. I'll have to find out in a sec.
And then
Get on.
your keep there, it looks visually different from when you first started the game. Did you upgrade that at some point?
Yeah, I did actually. So when I had enough resources, this little button down the bottom starts glowing, and you can upgrade the keep, just gaining, similar to with the hero and the units, a benefit to some of the base stats.
Yeah, cool.
Yes.
I go.
The keep is under attack.
And then you found something else over here. What's this resource you found?
Yeah, right. So this is the next resource. So if we look at the distance from the keep, it takes a bit to get to, but this is our iron, which is used for tier 2 and tier 3 buildings and units.
Yeah, cool. So that iron resource is going to come pretty handy in the late game then.
I'm hoping it can come in handy even sooner, but we'll see. I might have gotten to it a little too late.
What is it?
I stand prepared.
I'm on it.
So that's a good question. What is the main goal? What are we trying to do here in this survival mode of the game? Obviously, we aren't playing a campaign right now. We're playing a survival mode.
Yep.
So
yeah.
what's the objective here?
So I guess in a way it's kind of in the title, right? We want to survive, and with the name of the game as well, Final Stand. Hopefully that leans to a kind of what our intention is with it, right? Right now we've got a bunch of enemies. You're this, the final keep, I guess, in this world, and there are these death knights. The player has to survive a certain number of death knights, and if they can do so without being exterminated or they keep getting destroyed, they then survive. We don't really go into detail about whether or not that is the final stand or not, but as far as the objective of this game mode is, all you have to do is survive all of those death knights.
Yeah, cool.
From the ashes. We stand in defiance. As you wish.
Tracking. Ready when you are.
What?
I step towards
So you're just
the
building
abyss.
some towers around your new quarry there.
Yeah. So I know that I want this resource. I don't want to lose it, so I do want to defend it.
Mhm.
But then on top of that, I don't know if anyone's picked up on it yet, but the further out I go, the harder the enemies actually become. So the ones that I was
Yep.
fighting just here took considerably longer to defeat than the ones that we fought over here, which is
Okay.
fine. But
And
because
how do you tell that they're more difficult as you get further out?
yeah, so I hope just the player just from playing it notice it. But if you haven't fought them yet, you can usually tell by how much they are glowing. So each of the enemies have this kind of teal or greenish glow to them. But the further out you go, the more bright and yeah, the bigger they look. If you put them next to each other, it would literally look like something getting more radioactive and yeah, inflamed, I guess, larger.
Yeah, cool.
What is it? I'm on it.
Archer ready.
On my way.
Yeah, so if we look at these two right now, I'll just pause real quick. If you look at this crawler over here and that one, it's subtle, but yeah, this one's quite dark and that one's starting to glow quite a bit and they're a bit larger.
Oh,
The player should notice when they actually attack them as well that hey, they're not
Do you
dead
want to
yet.
zoom in a little bit as well?
Yep.
Speak.
Our buildings are under attack.
Aye.
Yeah.
I also noticed that you're not using command groups. Is that
Ah,
just
yes.
a personal choice?
Yeah, so guilty is charged. Probably is a bit of a personal choice, but I think I definitely start using them later on in the game. Early on, I think I'm probably a little bit too relaxed. When I start getting nervous, I start using command groups and more shortcuts.
Yeah. Do you want to maybe just make one real quick to show what that looks like and where it goes?
Yeah, for sure. So I'll try doing one with some units. Cool. So when I want to assign, I'll make a selection and then I can just click over on the side here and that will assign a command group. And now I can quickly, even if I'm somewhere else, tap that number. I've now selected that unit. And if I double tap it, it'll move over to that command group. You can do this with buildings as well. So something that I like to do is, especially mid-game, is build a bunch of the barracks or the training halls, and yeah, set them to a command group so I can quickly spawn many more units at a time.
Cool. And you double clicked there. There's a hotkey for it as well, right?
Yeah, I think it is
Control 1
Our defenses are
Control.
under attack.
or Control 2, whatever command group you want to create. Same as all typical RTSs, really.
What are you
Yeah.
on?
Yeah.
What now?
We are getting. Oh, we'll leave that
Got
there
something
actually.
for me?
All right, I'm going. Ready.
Have you placed a storage building?
No, not yet. I'll be able to grab one on the next one. I'll grab it
So,
just after this tick.
Archer ready.
Before, when you upgraded your
Starting
keep, that obviously made a change to your resources as well.
Yes, indeed.
So- Do you want to explain that one a little bit?
Yeah, for sure, for sure. So, this number that we've got above the keep, early on in the game, this was times 200. So 200 gold per tick per this bar filling up. With the upgrade, that's now increased to 300. So in general, I'm just getting more income now with that upgraded. So it kind of makes sense to upgrade. On top of that, I'm also getting defensive stuff. But as a third upgrade to it, I'm actually increasing my maximum capacity for resources. So I don't know if we noticed before, but at the start of the game, if we look at this gold overview screen, we would have had an amount out of a maximum amount, and that maximum amount was far less what it is now. So with upgrading, I can now reach a much higher cap. And it doesn't just happen with the gold. If we look at the wood, right now that's maxed out. At the start of the game, this wasn't 75. I think it was 50 at the start of the game. So
Yep.
with upgrading that, I can increase the capacity for not only greater purchases, things that cost more by default, but I can also just stockpile far more, so I can do more.
Yeah, great.
Yes.
And then obviously you need to start increasing your resource cap to actually be able
defenses are
to
under attack.
purchase certain buildings later on.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly.
Very well.
Yeah, we're cutting it pretty close to this
I'm ready.
this Death Knight right now.
Yeah, we're definitely going to be in a bit of a sticky situation.
Onward.
Moving. Swiftly. Yes.
We shall not waver.
So that just then, a couple of people have mentioned it already, but what Mario just did then is when he selects a building that you have
Very
units
well.
in or have units spawn from, you can set a rally point, and when they spawn from their location, they'll run to that rally point.
What have I done?
Now. Got something for me?
So we definitely didn't want to lose that. And because of this, I can rebuild it, but I've now lost the resources that I spent to build it. So for someone who's already in a bad situation, this is very bad play. You don't want to be doing this because, I'm just throwing resources away.
What do you want? Archer ready. Aye. Tracking. Moving out.
Speak.
Our buildings are under attack.
What? Right.
The light burns strong.
Uh-oh. Okay. So
Daybreak approaches.
a few things have happened now, all in one go. So this countdown is filled up. We've now introduced this. So it's no longer a obscure timer. It's now you now know that you've got literally this long until you're dead, pretty much. And at the bottom here, we are now seeing on our mini map an alert of some sort. If we go down to it, we're seeing some of the map is revealed. There's a bunch of scary enemies, very bright, and this big old crystal. this strange sort of magical looking crystal. Yeah, and right now that's pretty much all the player knows. They just know that something has happened, something bad is coming, and hopefully the player is prepared,
If I
which I'm not.
Ready when you are.
And this is why I should have had a storage building and a lot of resource management early on, because now I'm capped by my own limits. If I had more capacity, I'd be able to build more per tick. Pretty much just, yeah, increasing my chances of survival.
I'm so worried for you.
Yeah, this
I was
might not.
I was
go
hoping
well.
this stream would go for a bit longer.
Scouting ahead.
We don't want to show everyone too much, so maybe it's good that I'm about to get destroyed.
Yes.
Our defenses are under attack.
I'm on it. Got something for me?
So
The dark.
I guess talking about a couple of things that we've added that are a little bit unique to our game as well. I think a couple of people have already called it out and
Ready
asked
when
what it
you
is,
are.
but you'll notice in Mario's UI here, there are 3 buttons in the middle panel on the right, and 2 of them have little banners, flags hanging off them.
Got something for me?
What those flags are, the middle one is a repair button, and it's telling you how many buildings need to be repaired. And then the top one is a skill tree. So you can go into the skill tree and spend resources to upgrade your units, and the units are split into different categories. The melee units, your ranged units, and your siege weapon units. So siege weapon units being future units you can unlock towards the end game. Melee units being the soldiers that we see at the start with the sword and shield, and ranged units being your archers, and a future unit you can get later into the game called an arbalist. In this, you can see it advances downwards. Actually, Mario was pretty involved with the design of this skills tree, so I might pass it to him to dive a little bit further with it.
Yeah, for sure. Cheers for that. Yeah, as Ryan mentioned, we've kind of got these branching trees for each of the sort of classes. What we really wanted to do was ensure that players can kind of create their own play style, and not to the degree where it's like, cool, I'm going to have a soldier with laser beams or anything like that. We still want it to be realistic and kind of fit with our lore. But if the player does want to sort of invest in something a bit more like survival based or something a bit more combat based, they can choose to do so. And we're hoping that with the way that the game works is players may start off the game thinking like, yep, I'm going to go down this skill tree easy. And as things occur in the game with those waves and the death knights and stuff, and kind of like what can happen randomly, sometimes they're actually totally thrown off. They're like, oh my god, I really wish I could have protected against this thing from earlier on, so I'm going to spec into that now. So we're hoping, yeah, the players sort of play it, they try stuff, they experiment. Next time they play, they kind of try something different, just exploring and discovering what they like, and finding like good strategies and what's best for them.
Yeah, cool. Do you foresee players starting to go through the skill tree in the early game where you're at right now, or is it more something you tackle in the mid game?
Yeah. So I think it's really up to the player, right? I think a player who's not sort of an expert at these kind of games may not use it much at all early on. They're probably too busy sort of just trying to keep up with the natural threat of the enemies. But I think players that have maybe lost once or twice before and they're starting to get the hang of the game, or people that are sort of experts at this subgenre, they may actually look into it and be like, cool, like what does this do, and try to figure out quite early on. We have sort of scaled the prices so that players can invest in them early on if they've done so, if they've gotten enough resources early on. But as they go on, the prices do get substantially more expensive. So players kind of need to stay at a certain level of activity and actually exploring and doing these sort of risk reward elements to gain more resources, to stay on top of it. And I think there will be a pretty substantial difference between a player who's gone through without any upgrades and a player who's maxed out everything, especially when it gets to those later Death Knights.
Yes.
Cool. Let's see how you go defending against this Death Knight then, shall we?
Yeah.
I'm going to
Fingers
stop
crossed.
asking questions for a little bit so you can focus and try and catch up.
Awesome.
And again, guys, if you have any questions and you feel like we're missing over them. Obviously, a lot of questions are being asked. Feel free to save them
Archer
towards the end,
ready.
as we'll be sticking around after the playthrough for a live Q&A.
What now?
Fear not the shadowed path. I go. I serve.
Aye. What do you want? What now?
I stand prepared.
All right, I'm going.
I'm ready.
Oh, only a minute to go. Why does it go so
I know.
fast?
This is the fastest you've been clicking all game.
I'm trying to catch up now.
Very
Just
well.
concentrate. Just concentrate.
So I'm nervous.
Silently. Got something for me? Here's the dark.
The darkness grows stronger.
Watch
Prepare
this.
yourselves.
All right.
What
So
is it?
while this happens, Mario, I'm just going to talk to everyone a little bit. What you're all about to see is the exciting hype moment for our game. If you want to play this game on release and go into it, you know, and enjoy the surprises and get surprised and face the shock factor, then I'd recommend that you stop watching now, as what's about to happen is definitely the hype moment for us in this game, and what we feel as though makes it unique. So again, if you don't want that spoiled for yourself,
Ready when
stop
you
watching. If you don't mind and just want to
I am
enjoy
here.
the hype with us, keep going. All right, Mario, you're good to go.
Let's go.
Let's do this.
are. Yes.
Our defenses are under attack.
Don't do that. Don't do that to me now.
Got something for me? Swiftly. Scouting ahead.
Oh no, what have I done? Oh no,
Moving.
okay. Oh no.
Moving out.
Oh.
Oh,
Oh no! What have you done?
I forgot. I forgot. I'm nervous, damn it.
Oh my god!
Oh no. Okay.
That could not be better.
Oh,
That actually could not be better. So just pausing for a moment. Let's walk through everything
well, no,
that's just
we're not going
happened.
to talk about this. We're not going to talk. I don't want to talk about it. I can't
So,
talk about this.
Aside from Mario getting himself stuck in a terrible position, you would notice that the Death Knight started, the fogs rolled in, a point of which the enemies are going to come from has originated, and a UI element popped up on the screen, and that was what we call a malice. And the malices are these boons, essentially negative boons, that start at the start of a Death Knight, which is our roguelike element essentially, and it's a negative debuff that the player has to deal with for the duration of the Death Knight. And once they complete the Death Knight, that negative buff will be removed, and then they will be rewarded for surviving that Death Knight. But let's go into it and see if you can actually pull this off now after that.
Oh, yikes. The worst part is I know that this was going to happen, and I can't even speak about this. Oh my lord. Oh my lord.
Our buildings are under attack.
Ready when you are.
Oh no.
Ready to face the dark.
So another thing you guys will notice is the units that did get stuck in the fog just then have now this purple aura on them, and that's what we call a horrified effect, and that's our opposite version essentially of being emboldened.
Ready.
Emboldened units are immune to the horror, but units that are not emboldened get horrified quite easily, and then that can be a punishing buff as it lowers their stats and lowers their movement speed and makes them quite difficult to manage.
What do you want?
Oh my lord.
Yeah.
So yeah, someone just noticed the nightmare
Embers
count in the
guide
top
me.
right. That's the current
Forward.
number of nightmares that Mario will have to deal with for this Death Knight.
Proceed with purpose.
And as each Death Knight comes by throughout the duration of the game, that number will go up quite significantly. I can't even describe by how much it goes up. It's quite ridiculous. You'll get surprised every time it's the same.
Yeah. Oh yeah, so right here, these horrified gals. When you get close to your keep, being the the source of light, and one of our big elements, light versus darkness, light can actually cure, or fire can cure the horrified effect as well. We do have specific buildings that also do that, but when you don't have those buildings early game, you can just
What
bring those
now?
units back towards the keep, and when they get there, they'll be healed.
Aye.
I'm on it.
What do you want? Got something for me?
Our defenses are under attack.
We shall not waver.
I'm ready.
The ashes.
It's a lot of walls. I think these walls might save you.
I will beat your end. Make way.
I'm on it.
Very well.
Another thing worth mentioning as well with this number, relating to the Death Knight, the number of units that will come out of the Death Knight is also different based on the difficulty you're playing on. So right now we're playing on normal, so it's meant to be a little bit hard, still quite challenging for the average player, but once you learn the game, you should be able to play around it quite easily. But as you go up in the difficulties, that number will go up quite significantly as well.
I step towards the mists. Flicker from the dark.
So what I'm trying to do here is mainly just slow down these enemies by trying to draw their aggro. I'm letting my archers do more damage to them over time. They're still getting through, but hopefully this will be the difference between me getting destroyed and not getting destroyed.
We shall not waver.
Our defenses are under attack.
Forward. Onward.
I guess in this situation we're lucky you know what you're doing. Huh?
Right.
Whew, alrighty.
Well, you survived. Well, that's quite surprising. Thought you weren't going to make it there.
Let's play serious mode for a second there.
I know.
So
You leaned
hunching
forward.
over. Yep. So this here is the, I guess the counterpart to the Malice that we spoke about before. After surviving a Death Knight, the player is granted the option of selecting a Blessing. These are pretty much just more of that roguelite factor, giving players the option to create their own playstyle and try stuff, discover things, and hopefully subvert their own expectations. They might think they want to play a certain way, and then through experimentation and discovery, they can find what works best for them.
I honestly reckon if you were playing on the next difficulty up, you wouldn't have beaten that.
No, I wouldn't have. I would have been destroyed. That's
On
too
my
late.
way.
Tracking.
Saved by the normal mode.
That's it.
Very
Yeah.
well.
I've been practicing by playing the harder modes.
I'd hope so. You've been practicing. You're playing every day.
Maybe a little bit more than practice.
I guess the question I have now is we can either... the plan was to play up to the
What
first
is
Death
it?
Knight and then move on to Q&A. But it'd be great to know if everyone wants to, us first to keep going a little bit longer with gameplay, or we can move on to doing a Q&A.
Yes? Swiftly.
Second Death Knight.
I'm on it.
I kind of want to see you lose a bit, so
Moving out.
maybe we do play up to the second Death Knight.
Does that mean I have to put on my serious hat?
Let's just keep playing for a little bit, and we'll see where things go.
Cool. All right, so I guess I'll go back to a little
What
bit of like
now?
I guess what my train of thought is, or as a player, what I'm
I
trying to do
stand
now.
prepared.
Once I know the mechanics.
All right, I'm going.
I started working towards getting iron before. I've worked on a little bit of resource expansion, and I've kind of just done the bare minimum in terms of villagers and food. Now that I've sort of gotten past that big, the main challenge, I kind of have a little bit of time to either build up my economy or go out exploring. That exploring can also mean its own things, but it's kind of one of those two. Once you get good at the game, you can kind of micromanage and do a bit of both, but they're my two main options right now. So I think I'm going to go a bit more into the economy sort of side and a little bit less on the exploration side. But yeah, it's going to be totally up to the player how they play.
Yeah, awesome.
Ready when you are.
Well, I think you've been talking a lot while trying to play a bit, so I'll leave you to just play for a little bit, and I'll go through the questions that are coming up and try to answer them myself. And if I need your help answering any of those questions, I'll get you to chime in.
Cool.
Cool.
Nice,
So let's start some questions. I'm going to start from now. So if I've missed any questions, just
The
resend them,
light
and we'll go
burns
from there.
strong.
The red gem resource in the bottom right. So
Got
that
something
is
for me.
a rarer resource that players can come by through certain
Very well.
moments in the game, either discovering
I'm on it.
rare locations that they can possibly get those resources from. And this resource will be used. I'm trying not to give too much away here, but this resource will essentially be
We
used
stand
for
in defiance.
higher tier content later in the game, such as perks for your units, as an example.
Right.
Oh wow, that was a lot of questions at once. Let me
What
just catch
now?
up here. What medieval fictional cultures inspired the aesthetic of the buildings and units? So that's a really good question. Early on, I was heavily inspired with the rest of the team around 800 to 1000 AD time period. With Mercia, Northumbria, Danes versus Saxons versus Francia kind of cultures.
As you wish.
So we've tried to base our world around that time period, as if this was set in
Ready to face the dark.
Mercia or Northumbria, for example, during that time period, and what the people who lived in those areas would do if they were faced with this threat, using the tools that they had at the time, and how would they innovate to survive. Similar to with siege weaponry to win wars and destroy castles, they innovated and were creative to come up with ways to destroy a castle. If they didn't have to deal with that situation and had to find ways to fight off nightmares, how would they innovate, and with what tools would they use to do that? How many unique units can we get? That's a good question. Off the top of my head, I'm going to say 6 or 7. Is that correct, Mario?
If we include the hero on EA launch, it would be 7.
Awesome. Yeah, and then with that as well, going into early access, we plan to do a lot of content around units and heroes, starting off with trying to grow our heroes, and then additionally adding some extra units to allow for some different playstyles and make gameplay a little bit more interesting as you get later into the game. Setting walls on fire, that is definitely a thing. What you have to do to unlock that, though, is research it. I'm not sure if Mario's gotten to that point in the game yet. Have you placed a research building yet?
Here's one I prepared earlier.
Amazing. So right now Mario's placing a wood workshop. The wood workshop is your first tier research building, and then using this building you can research advancements for your buildings and structures to progress throughout the game. And one of the things you can research is being able to set wooden walls on fire.
Yes. Moving out.
There's been a few
buildings are
questions
under
around
attack.
magic as well. Right now there is no current plans for magic in the game per se, or a typical fantasy magic, I should say. Magic will be more so treated as a thing that humans don't quite understand, but it can exist in the world, and that ties into the fog itself and how the nightmares exist as well. So when and if magic does get used as a player weapon later in the game, during early access, it would be a unique thing, and it wouldn't be a common thing that you would see players being able to use, I should say.
We stand in defiance.
Can we hear Mario chuckle one more time? I guess we need something to make him chuckle, don't we? What's the
Lord.
spicy question?
Spicy question.
Spicy question.
Light the way.
Yes, that's exactly right, Psycho Pink. Every time
On my
Mario
way.
does chuckle, it is because something evil's about to happen.
What?
Just like that. Just like that. Razuba, so around a tutorial mode,
Alright, I'm
we
going.
don't have a
Right.
tutorial mode in terms of a hand-holding experience that will walk you through and introduce each element of the game. It
Our
will just be the
defenses
survival
are
mode
under
where you have to
attack.
jump in and learn it a bit yourself, but we will have tooltips and pop-ups that happen for the first-time player experience, explaining some of the features within the game in a little bit more depth.
The light burns.
Ezekiel with 3 heroes, so right now
Very well.
we do have 3 heroes in mind that we'll be looking at working towards in the future, but the goal is to grow our hero base a bit further than that, even after release potentially.
I stand.
How hard is the game on the hardest difficulty? Very hard. I don't think there's actually been anyone who has beaten it yet from memory. I think if they have, it's been only just. It's quite hard. A lot of us in the office struggle even to beat normal.
2 words, Ryan. 2 words.
2 words.
Get good.
Get good, yes. Will there be a campaign mode? That's a really good question. So we currently
I'm
are
ready.
starting to plan out what the campaign would look like as we get
Our
closer to early
defenses are
access.
under
It's not
attack.
something we foresee getting added anytime soon, as our main priority is
Gotcha,
polishing
ready.
out this survival mode that you see Mario playing here. We want to perfect this and get it as good as we possibly can before we dive too deep into the campaign. When we release the game into early access, we're going to await a lot of your feedback around the survival mode itself and look at iterating and improving upon that. But in the background, we will be starting to plan around a campaign.
Archer ready. What now?
So around custom maps and scenarios, that's definitely something we've thought about, and it could tie in with the systems we build to make our campaign as well. We also are planning on adding modding support down the line. We've got a lot of really cool tools that we use internally to build out these maps. Even though they're procedurally generated, there's also tools to custom edit them if we need to.
Yep.
And we plan to make that available to the public during early access as well, so people can make their own maps essentially.
Ready to face the dark.
Archer ready.
So I see a question around the delay as well. So the game itself isn't changing in early access. What we're releasing into early access in the next 3 weeks will be the same as what was intended to be released this week, aside from a few bug fixes. The main reason for the delay is that we have to tie up a few business things with Team 17. The build's
Our
ready to go,
buildings are under attack.
but there's just a lot of transferring that we need to do to the publisher at this time. So there's a question around microtransactions as well. There is no intention for microtransactions to go into this game or pay to win mechanics.
Get on.
There is the idea being floated around about DLC after the full release, to keep the game alive essentially, but that is so far into the future we're not even giving it a second thought right now.
Aye.
Yeah. What is it?
Let's catch up on some of these questions.
Got something for me?
Oh, that's a really good question. Jeff Wombat asked the question, does building in the green production circle of food huts impact the productivity of it?
Hell yeah, it does.
So, yes it does. Yes it does. but only for the food gathering buildings. If you build within range of a wood gatherer or stone gatherer, for example, that shouldn't impact the productivity. But when you place a food gatherer, it is counting the number of fertile land tiles around it, and that is where it gathers its resource from. If you build on those terrain tiles within its radius, that will remove the fertile land and remove it from the number of food resources that it's providing you.
I'm ready. What do you want?
Our defenses are under attack.
There's a question around support units as well. At the moment, there are no support units, but right now we're in discussion around what sort of units we should be looking to add in the future during early access, and it's definitely one that we've been playing around with in mind.
I'm on it.
How many people have been working on the game? It's a really good question. Internally, we probably have about 15 to 20 people working on it, but we also have had people join the team midway through and work on it for a couple of months. We've also had various contractors come on. We had a lot of the buildings we worked with another company on that, Next Gen Dreams. They helped us with a lot of the art production for the buildings, and then we also had a fantastic external audio team come on. One being Camille as well. He came on to help with the soundtrack as a composer, and then we also had a lot of voice actors join us for the voice acting you hear from the units in the game. What do I like most about the game? That's a good question as well. It's hard for me to choose. I am a big RTS fan myself. I grew up on Age of Empires, the original one, and most recently been playing a lot of Northgard over the past couple of years. For me,
Our defenses
I
are under
really
attack.
like the hero system and the Death Knights themselves as well. So being able to have my hero, level them up and explore them early on, and
Ready when you are.
feel the value and weight of that unit and not want to lose it is a really nice crutch around the game.
Archer
And
ready.
then also the whole Death Knight moment
Very
and
well.
the overwhelming fear and pressure as the countdown comes down. It's really nice. It hits this itch moment, I guess, for me, where I'm just panicking and trying to get it done, and the adrenaline that hits me while I play. It's not something I've quite experienced in a lot of RTS before.
Yes?
Huh?
Yeah, so that's a really good question, Toshli. So yeah, with Team 17 support, that does allow us to do a lot of the things that we were hoping to do during early access, but weren't 100% sure on whether we would be able to do it. And one of those things is multiplayer. So we're currently planning what multiplayer would look like during early access. We're planning to add multiplayer and co-op modes to the game at the moment. What those modes look like is still something that's in discussion. That's also something I would expect to see towards the end of early access, as it will take a lot of our development time to achieve it. That spitter's messing you up.
buildings
So
are
that
under
unit
attack.
there that Mario's fighting there is what we call a spitter. And they shoot ranged projectiles, ranged AoE projectiles, that will seriously mess up your units if you're not moving them around and trying to dodge the projectiles.
Light the way. Strike with purpose. Burn, wretch. Embers guide me. I step towards the abyss. Proceed with purpose.
How big are the requirements of the game needed to run it? On our Steam page, I think we have a minimum requirements tab. I don't know it off the top of my head, but when you look at our Steam page, it should be all there. I currently play it at home with a 970 graphics card and i7 CPU, and about 16 GB RAM as well. But that doesn't play too well. I'm capped to about 30 frames, but you don't really need much more than that in my opinion. And everyone from Playside in the comments is going to make some comment about that, but I truly believe that that's all you need. I can see Mario chuckling.
What now?
Don't
I'm
ruin
ready.
this. Hey, I'm an artist. All that matters is that it looks good.
Our defenses are under attack.
That's actually another question I'll pass to you, Mario. Does higher difficulty also change the aggressiveness of the roaming enemies?
At the moment, no. Right now, we've got all of our difficulty based only on the number of. What it does mean though is early on in the game, I was able to kind of haphazardly just wander about and attack enemies, and there wasn't really much of an aggression problem, like drawing aggro from enemies. As the density goes up though, and you're now fighting, twice the amount of enemies, or instead of fighting 5, you're fighting, 8 or whatever. It actually has more chance of drawing aggro. So instead of you fighting one guy and then it turns into being a 1 versus 4, it'll end up being like a 1 versus 20 or 30 because it is drawing aggro from those other clusters of enemies. Yeah, you can get overwhelmed very, very easily as the difficulties go up.
What do you want? Aye.
Upgrade
That's a
complete.
good question as well. I might pass this to you for you to answer as well, Mario. What does our late game look like? As an example, they've said that they are billions turns into snipers and towers, which can be a bit stale. How do we keep it interesting, and what kind of buildings do you think we use as well?
Yeah, right. This is something that we probably still tackle today. Something that we're still sort of trying to improve and make better, and what we're planning on adding even more to with new units and heroes and stuff like that. But we have I feel like our siege units are what make that end game interesting. They're kind of treated as our non-official tier 3 units, right? Your end game units. They are all kind of advancements of the previous type of unit. So our sniper, for example, our arbalist, is only a tier 2 unit, sorry, but our tier 3 siege unit has much more capability. So the players can kind of go down the path of the tab style, just towers and playing a bit more safer with high defenses, kind of like what I did in that first Death Knight, or they can go a bit more aggressive with these tier 3 units. We do sort of aim to support multiple playstyles though, because we don't want everyone sort of playing the exact same way. So with a combination of like our malices, our blessings, those NT units, and our unit skill tree, we're hoping that players can sort of come up with their own sort of unofficial metas, their own sort of ways to beat the game, and we're hoping that once it's out and you guys can play it, you guys can discuss it and figure out like, hey, have you tried this tactic? This is actually the coolest thing. I just go all suicide firewalls, and like that's how I beat it. Like that's my strategy. The more we can kind of get that fleshed out, the more we can get like the feedback from you guys, the more options we can create for that.
Got something for me?
Also, another thing that we sort of show in a few of our bits of footage, we've got different tower types, attack tower types and defense tower types. I kind of see there being merit in those as well for your late game as well. If the player wants to go a bit more defensive, they can kind of rely on those, and if they want to be a bit more aggressive, you can micromanage your hero though. Realistically, if you really want to micromanage, you can just play your hero all the way to the end. It's obviously kind of a full-time job, but yeah, the options are there.
Let me catch up on some questions.
Ready when you are. Archer ready.
Do units change visually if they are upgraded? So the only way to technically upgrade units at the moment
Got something
is
for me?
through the perks. There isn't a visual change in their aesthetic
I'm ready.
or their look, but there are visuals to accompany their final perk upgrade that you choose. And then there is advanced versions of them technically, but we treat them as a new unit essentially. But you'll see here in the training hall that Mario's opened, there's
Upgrade
a
complete.
heavier duty melee unit and a heavier duty ranged unit. So they
Ready
are
for
just
action.
advanced versions of the traditional melee and ranged unit.
The light burns strong.
So that's a good question as well. Why are you selling the food huts? Unlike other buildings, food huts can't be upgraded from the food hut. You need to replace them with a farm, if that's what you choose to do. The reason for that is that farms have a larger tile footprint than the starting food huts, so you kind of have to be smart around your placement around them. It might seem a little bit weird at first, but it
Yes?
does grow on you. And there are some potential changes we're looking at making to the food hut itself to help make this
What do
make a
you
little bit
want?
more sense in the future.
Aye.
If I must.
Why there is no spear unit? The answer to that question,
I'm ready.
why is there no spear unit yet? I think
Scouting
that's something
ahead.
that we've been looking at, and I wouldn't be surprised to see it added to the game earlier on as well.
Upgrade complete.
Yes, there is reasons to train low-level units still for the late game, at least in my opinion. It depends on your playstyle, of course. Everyone plays the game differently. When you get to the mid to late game, your playstyle can change from person to person. Some people like to block themselves in and build lots of walls and towers. Some people like to
Our
build massive
buildings
armies
are
and
under
roam
attack.
around and use units as meat shields, essentially. I like to go for a lot of the lower tier units from early to mid game and even late game,
What now?
just because they're a lot cheaper resource wise.
I'm on it.
And then I will probably buy a couple of the more advanced tier units because of the resource cost. It's more efficient to go for the lower tier
Moving out.
units, at least for my playstyle. I've seen people who have played where they
Scouting
just
ahead.
completely ignore the lower tier units towards the late game. But it's really
Upgrade
up to how you
complete.
want to play.
What do you want? Very well. Swiftly.
Ready. Cut them down. On my way.
Moving.
So what Mario is doing here, as you can see, is exploring out, and this is just one way to play the game. And he is currently attacking what we call a point of interest.
Ready
So
when you are.
at these point of interest, there will be a large swarm of
Swiftly.
enemies that will be guarding it and protecting it.
Got
And
something
you
for me?
will, as you're venturing out, you'll discover these points of
Our
interest,
defenses are
and
under
you
attack.
can fight off these hordes of enemies that are
Target
protecting it to
practice.
claim it. And once you claim it, you'll get rewarded with something special, whether it be resources or units, depending on the point of interest.
I'm on it.
And then later on, there's also some scarier point of interest, you could say, that have
Archer ready.
more unique enemies that
Moving out.
you don't typically come across.
Make way.
Yes, there is saving. It depends on the difficulty you're playing on, of course. On normal mode, there is unlimited saves, and there's also auto-saving.
Very well.
So I guess something for the more advanced players as well is this adventuring out and exploring the map mechanic. If you're game enough to do it and know how to manage your units properly, there's a lot of rewards to be reaped from the map, with these point of interest as an
Get
example.
on with it.
But someone mentioned earlier in the chat about if you
What is
destroy a
it?
crystal, does that stop the Death Knight from spawning from it? You can destroy the crystal. What it does, I'm not going to tell you just yet, but when you destroy the crystal, it will drop those rare resources that you see at the bottom of the resource list on the bottom right.
Archer ready. Scouting ahead.
So at the start of the stream as well, Mario showed the difficulty
Got
selection
something for
screen,
me?
and one of the things we glanced over was a custom difficulty
What now?
setting section, and one of the things in that is hardships. One of the hardships you can
Aye.
select is called would-be Iron Man mode, and in that you cannot save.
Right. Taste my steel.
So the buildings with the green fog are ones that are damaged. At first, when we were trying to explore what damage state should look like, we played around with a traditional destroyed damage state where it would be on fire, like in your Age of Empires and
Ready.
other RTS games. But given that fire is our unit's strength, it just didn't quite look right. It looked like our buildings were getting powered up or something. So the idea there is that it's essentially they are attacking it, and the
Archer
dark
ready.
energy that radiates within them starts to seep out.
I'm ready.
Yep, so when you're paused, you can still interact with the game, like placing buildings and commanding units. There's nothing too advanced with
Alright,
setting up
I'm
a
going.
series of commands for units. You can only tell them the one command while paused. But it's good to essentially pause the game, think about what you want to do, place your buildings, because time is of the essence in this game. Each second that
Yes?
passes, the closer you get to the next Death Knight. So the main thing with our building anywhere as well is that you do need to have vision of the area, so you can't just place anywhere on the map and build. You do have to run over there and get vision of it.
What
But
now?
the risk is the further out you build, the harder it is to cover it with defenses, and you run the risk of the nightmares seeping
Our
in and destroying
buildings
that
are
area
under
if it's
attack.
undefended.
Aye. Got something for me?
Onward.
What are you on?
From the ashes.
What? Yeah.
Ready when you are.
Do I think that Mario will win? Well, now he's gone serious mode, hasn't he, since he's stopped talking a bit. Look at the deep concentration in his face right now.
Got something for me?
I think we're looking pretty good for the second Death Knight right now, but we'll see how the defenses
I'm
look when
ready.
we get to it.
Scouting ahead.
I think you're muted, Mario, if you've been talking, by the way.
Oh, yes, I am. Sorry. Yeah, I'm not feeling good about it. I think I'm still quite
You're
a
not
bit
feeling
behind.
good about it?
I think I focused economy too much, and I didn't, as in like resource gain and not resource spending. So I think I'm too far behind now, but we'll see.
What now?
It'll be interesting to see where it spawns from as well. I think that'll play a big part in whether you
Our
can beat it or not.
defenses are under attack.
I am here.
Upgrade complete.
Speak. I'm on it.
Moving out. I'm on it. Very well. Aye.
All right, I'm going. What is it?
You'll also notice that
Right.
when night comes, a lot of the villagers will run away to their homes or to the keep, just for shelter. What's that red stuff in the fog over there, Mario?
What do you want?
Oh.
On my way.
That's not something I want to deal with.
Oh,
Upgrade
what?
That emboldened.
Ready.
Research complete.
Onward.
Fight it. Why don't you fight it?
We stand in defiance.
Come
I'm
on, man.
afraid.
Embers
Don't be a
guide
chicken.
me.
I'm a chicken.
Forward,
Maybe I can sneak up on him.
as you wish.
Swiftly.
A
You can
hero
always run
has
away, it's
fallen.
alright. Oh my god. Dude!
Yeah. Don't do what I just did. Don't try to fight them when you're not ready. I said I wasn't ready, damn it.
I know,
Our
it's so
defenses are
good.
under attack.
But now everyone gets to see what happens when your hero dies. So you'll see in the top left there is a timer. That's the respawn timer. When that timer gets to 0. Oh, the Death Knight's coming as well. Oh,
It
that's
was
really
probably
good
not.
timing.
Probably wasn't a good idea to fight him just then.
That's a
Yes.
fantastic idea because now we don't have to go to the third Death Knight, right? And then, yeah, below that timer there's a revive button. So you can revive the hero early, but it does cost a lot of resources. So if Mario mouse over there right now, you'll see that it costs that red
Upgrade
essence,
complete.
the red crystal resource that you can get. Oh, your head's covering it. That's a shame. But it does. It will say under that what it costs, and it's that red essence, dark essence
Archer ready.
resource.
Yes, right now it's telling me it's going to cost 18 dark essence, and I've got
Okay.
0.
So does the cost go down as the timer goes down as well?
Yeah, it does. I think it's a default of about 25, which is quite hard to come by.
I'm ready.
Yeah, so if you wait till it's closer, you'll be able to spend
Archer
less,
ready.
hopefully.
Upgrade complete.
Aye. Got something for me?
I think it's not so much a matter of how
Our
many levels do
buildings
we
are
need,
under
and
attack.
more so how many units do we need.
Ready when you are. Archer ready.
So that icon next to the hero of the archers that says 36, that's the number of archers he has. So right now Mario only has 37 archer units in his army. He hasn't built any other units.
I lost them all.
You lost them all.
I had soldiers, they're all dead.
Archer ready.
This is looking spicy.
Aye.
We're in big trouble.
So Mario showed zoom
What now?
earlier on in the stream, but just to show it again, Mario, do you want to show max and min zoom?
Yes.
And then with that as
I'm
well,
ready.
there's been that feature you've been talking about doing as an update during early access. Did you
Yep.
want to talk a little bit about that?
Yeah, is this specifically around the camera?
Yes.
Yeah, okay. So yeah, something that we've found
Very well.
especially in late game, is if the player already knows how to play and they're not really scared anymore. It's more so like trying to solve the problem and trying to like
Our
strategize.
defenses are
Having
under
more
attack.
of like an overview or an overworld sort of view, something that we feel like would be super beneficial. So allowing like almost a third level of zoom where it comes out like twice the amount again, showing less detail on the map and the units and the UI and all that stuff, but being able to see from a distance, all right, that's where the choke points are. How do I want to sort of micromanage my army and my defenses beforehand?
What do you want?
I think another thing that would be nice as well, it doesn't really add too much to the game, but it feels really nice, is having the opposite end of that. So when you zoom in even further than our maximum zoom, seeing some nice sort of camera shift and getting a nice angle on the units to show off some of the art
Yes?
of the units.
The land trembles.
I'm ready.
Oh, you just went muted again.
Darkness is here.
I did.
Yep.
Oh, can you hear me now?
Aye.
I can hear you now.
Oh yeah, yeah. Wait, did you catch what I said at all?
What now?
You were talking about zooming in on the units to see their art. Was the
Oh
last thing
yeah,
you said.
yeah. So yeah, that was the last bit. Yeah, so I think just having the another level of zoom, like when you zoom in to show the art of the units a bit more, would be really cool. A little bit more cinematic, I think.
Got something for me?
I am here.
A hero's
But a
revived
hero
now.
back.
Yep.
That's no fun. So again, yeah, another Death Knight. If you missed out on the first one, probably skip this one. But surely, if you're still watching by this point, you want to see it.
Ready when you are.
So one thing that Mario's doing as well is he's just stacking his walls as a barricade. You can build gates. I do it. Other people do it. Mario just likes to hide behind walls with his towers. Like a chicken.
Yeah, I'll put a gate over here for you.
That's not how you place a gate.
What's cool though is if you've already got walls, you can just go and place your gate over it without having to delete it all.
I was expecting more than 600. On veteran mode, how many units is there on the second Death Knight?
It's close to 1,000, I think.
Yeah.
Yeah.
What's max Death Knight? I think we'll leave that for a later date. We don't want to reveal everything in tonight's stream.
Yeah.
You know, there's still 3 weeks till the early access launch, and we want to keep sharing more content with you guys up until then. So, you know, over the next couple of weeks, it seems like this stream's gone quite well, so we can look to do some more of these. And yeah, we look forward to sharing a bit more there as well.
Our defenses are
So
under attack.
here you can see Mario's basically finished all his research in his wood workshop, and the one he clicked on the bottom there was the refined workshop, I'm pretty sure it's called, and that'll unlock the next set of research capabilities. That's a good question, Toshly. Do higher difficulties change only the amount of units, or do they gain more health, damage, speed, etc. too?
Yeah, so at the moment, kind of similar to the aggro stuff. Sorry, I'm just gonna pause real quick so I can micro in a second whilst my brain works. Similar to the aggro stuff, we have at the moment just the numbers increasing. The main reason we wanted to do this was so that it was a little bit more deterministic. Players can sort of play the game, and even if they played at an easier level at the start, when they move on to that harder level, they're overwhelmed simply by the number. We're not against adding, any sort of stat changes or anything like that, or anything that's a little bit more bespoke, depending on difficulties, like having unique enemies appear or something in harder difficulties in the future. But at the moment, it's just density.
Yeah.
The light burns strong.
Our buildings are under attack.
You have to light your ways on fire.
Upgrade complete.
I serve.
And then you can see as well as as Mario's losing his buildings are destroyed, the fog is creeping in closer and closer to his base.
Oh no. Oh no.
You are
We just
so
crashed. Oh, I got destroyed
you crashed.
and crashed at the same time.
Oh no.
And this is the benefit of us having slightly more time to fix bugs. Oh,
Well, I think it's safe to assume what would have happened next.
yeah, that was game over. That was a last ditch effort for sure.
I didn't see the crash log pop up. Are you sure you just weren't trying to hide the fact you were going to lose from us?
Yeah, I've no idea what you're talking about, man. My record is clean. I still haven't lost in normal mode.
I guess we'll stick around for a little bit. We'll do some Q&A. Do you want to switch it to the Q&A screen as well now,
Yeah,
Mario?
sweet man.
Awesome. Cool, guys. Let's jump into some Q&A. We'll probably stick around for 10 more minutes and then wrap it up. What's the strongest unit in the game except for your hero? Do you want to answer that one, Mario?
Um, I think it's definitely depending on your build. I think by default our tier 3 siege units, as I mentioned, are definitely the most capable. But they all have different sort of roles. If we're looking at flat damage output, as in like a single hit, it definitely would be our arbalist, which is the crossbow gear. But then if we're talking about how many enemies they can kill at one time, it definitely would be our impaler, which is our long range siege unit.
The Impaler. That's gone through a couple of nerfs recently, hasn't it?
It has. So, and this is what I'm kind of really interested in, because I think based off the way that you build your skill tree, maybe even Flamer comes out on top.
You reckon Flamer?
Yeah, it really depends on the situation though. Like if you're fighting like that big red guy that I came across who like two shot my hero, I wouldn't use a Flamer against him. But if I was fighting in a Death Knight, I'd use a Flamer, and yeah, it would sort of be a different fight.
Yeah, so it really does all end up situational on how you want to play.
Yeah, for sure. Like even if we look at our early units, our soldiers and our archers, you probably see that I had a lot more archer to soldiers in just simple ratio. But if we broke down 100 soldiers versus 100 archers, the soldiers would probably win. More HP, higher speed, higher DPS in general. It's more so that yeah, with an archer, obviously you can attack from range and micro a little bit more. So yeah, it really just depends on the situation and how you play.
Yeah, awesome. Has there been any talk of different type of fantasy factions as expansions in the future, or will you guys try to stick with humans at least for now? Yeah, so at the moment, definitely humans is where we're sticking. How far we go into fantasy, it's still something we're playing around with. In a lot of the world building discussions that we've had, the idea is that it would be based more in a modern world, modern-ish in a sense of around that time period I mentioned earlier, around 800 to 1000 AD. And how would they use the tools that they have to survive against this darkness threat? The main source of magic, you could say, in this game would be from the darkness itself. Maybe in the future, these humans will start to try harness that power and use it to their advantage, as you can see with how we're using the dark essence as a resource. But how we play with that in the future is yet to be revealed through the early access, I guess.
100%. I think a really good reference I've always sort of used to help sell this to other people that have joined the team later on is we like to look at the magic kind of like the God of Light in Game of Thrones, right? If you came and met one of the disciples of light, like you wouldn't really believe them the first time you met them. You'd be like, this person's just crazy. It's not until someone gets struck down by fire in a fight that you're like, holy crap, maybe that stuff's real. So yeah, I think we definitely have a lot of room still to go with it, even if we don't end up having, orcs and elves or anything like that.
Totally, totally. Just reading some more questions. So, speed unit with a shield. Is it confirmed? Is it not? I guess we'll wait and see. It's pretty funny actually. I think I saw someone drawing up some designs of a new unit that looks just like that today. With the possibility for getting into testing before EA, it's something that we're talking about now with Team 17. Just because everything's so fresh, we're still talking about our approach over the next 3 weeks, whether we do giveaways or limit the key giveaways to streamers and influencers. Not 100% sure there, but we've definitely been talking about doing some sort of giveaway or early access entry before the early access launch. Who has the best score so far with the hardest difficulty? Fun fact, me. Unless Mario can tell me I'm wrong.
don't, oh, don't believe him for a second. I think there was a question earlier about us beating the game. You need to understand that during development, there's points of the game where the game doesn't work. So people have technically beaten the game before, but if the game's not working, it doesn't really count. So if we're talking strictly numbers and doesn't matter if the game's working or not, Ryan does have the highest score. But
Did you mute?
no, sorry.
Yeah, no, there was this point during development where Mario and the designers had just added the hardships into the game, but no one had really dug into testing them out yet. So one night, I just thought to myself, all right, I'm going to play the game with every single hardship turned on. And what that does is it increases your score multiplier for the score that you get throughout the game. Whether you lose the game or beat the game, on the end screen, it'll give you a score. And I was able to play up to the second Death Knight with all the hardships on and the hardest possible settings I could do. And it gave me some ridiculous score of, I think, like 2.5 or 3 million, which just doesn't happen.
You're very good at the game, Ryan.
Yeah, of course. Everyone saw my amazing playthrough last night in that 1 minute 1 minute clip in Discord.
Yep.
Someone said, I heard your CEO is the best player in the studio. Is that correct? I think he likes to believe so, but it's yet to be proven. So we'll wait and see, I guess. Maybe one time he'll come and stream himself to prove that point.
I'd watch that.
I'd watch that too. Let's see if I talk in Discord tomorrow, huh? Let's see, what question was I just reading? Would there be a sort of sandbox mode where you have unlimited resources, a tool you can use to test strategies and just test stuff out? That's a really good idea. I think it's totally something we could look at doing during the early access. It'd probably be accompanied by the mod support that we would look at doing with the map editor that we want to release.
Yeah, for sure.
If we were to do it, it would be around that period.
Yeah, I was just going to say on that, I think as we are, in the next sort of stage of development, we probably will be working on new units and new heroes and stuff like that. With that's going to come new mechanics and a whole bunch of new balancing to tackle. I think for us to do that effectively, we probably will have to develop a tool anyway to sort of do that, just spawn in units and see who wins in fights and stuff. So yeah, I think there's definitely room for it if that's something people are interested in.
Totally. I think we'll do 2 more questions. Let's see what comes through. Will there be item drops for heroes? Do you want to answer that one, Mario?
Yeah, so I probably can't talk too much on it yet, just because it's nothing's locked in just yet. But we have spoken of the idea of doing some sort of loot that players can get. We don't know the details yet exactly, like whether it would be hero specific or whether it's similar to our unit tree, where it's based off their class. But yeah, we definitely would like to do something like that, where you can sort of build up a custom build even more.
Cool. And then what game is the biggest inspiration for us? So we've been inspired by a bunch of games, including They Are Billions, which gets mentioned quite a bit, Northgard, traditional Age of Empires, StarCraft, Warcraft. We really tried to take a lot of inspiration from the old school RTSs of the 90s and early 2000s that I think a lot of us have quite fond memories of, with taking some elements that have come up in the RTS genre over the past 10 years, looking more at They Are Billions and Northgard there. But we always have had our own vision to create a unique game in the RTS genre, but just taking inspiration from a lot of those elements. We've done our best to add our own spin, including the roguelite and RPG elements, a living death fog, and more. We think we've created a pretty unique experience for a strategy game, but I guess you guys will get to see that when you get your hands on it in 3 weeks. Oh, there's a lot of questions coming through. Should we answer one more? I'll let you pick one, Mario. Can you see the chat?
Yeah, let me just get up to date. Where are we? Oh, it's taking a bit to load. Sorry. Cool. One that I might jump on. Sorry if this has already been answered or if I've skipped a bunch of people. Will there be any progression outside campaign, for example, in survival? This is something that's come up quite a bit in the Discord. Again, we don't really have anything locked in, but we have plenty of ideas around it. There's a couple of things that we may share soon, just once people can play the game and stuff. But we'd love to hear what you guys want. The roguelite sort of thing is what we're trying to aim for. Having players sort of continually progress and get better through failure and experimentation is kind of like a big win for us. So yeah, there's definitely room for some sort of meta outside of the actual game.
All right. That's a wrap. Thanks, guys. Thanks for joining us on our first ever live stream. Mario and I are pretty new to this stuff. We haven't actually done any live streams ourselves before, and we've both been frantically Googling how to do this all day. But
Yep.
thank you for bearing with us. I hope you enjoyed what you got to see, and we look forward to doing more of this stuff in the future. Cheers for tuning in. Make sure to like, subscribe, follow our Twitter, join our Discord, wishlist on Steam, and we'll see you next time. Cheers,
Thank
guys.
you so much. See you, gang.